How you going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of What Do You Do for a Crust? With us today, we have a mental health team leader. A little bit unique because we're obviously talking a specific industry as well as leadership, so definitely a lot for us to unpack. In same fashion, we're going to go through our fast or first five. But first of all, sorry, welcome.
Thank you for
Sorry, it's
having
very
me.
rude of me. I'm all business tonight. God. Apologies. We're very excited to have you. I'm very excited to have you. I did mention to a couple of people that I was going down a mental health path and had someone in leadership, but also mental health. And I did have a few people with a few questions. So
Nice.
hopefully we can get some answers, fingers crossed. Apologies. First five, fast five. Income or salary range?
So mine is between about 105 and 115.
Yeah, all right. Good money. Pathway or learning? How did... we talking uni? We talking years of experience working your way up through an organisation? How's that kind of work?
My specific pathway, so I've gone through university. I studied psychological science
Nice.
at UniSA. And then from there, I found myself into a grad position at, I can't say it, in a housing organisation.
You could say it, that's right. In a housing organisation?
Yes.
That's fine.
And then, during that time, I was very interested in doing a bit more study. So I did a grad certificate in alcohol and drug studies, I think it's called.
Interesting.
That is something that I've never used, but like formally.
Surely.
but-
Has it come in handy, though?
I don't know if it has completely.
Okay.
Some of it has. The subject that I remember the most is around pharmacology, so how to take drugs.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. and so when you're using drugs and being able, and obviously medication,
Okay.
prescribed drugs, or even actually when you're using illicit drugs, like what does it do to your system, and why does it react in the way that it reacts? So I found that very interesting because then you can kind of understand what it is for somebody that's using, either using illicit substance or using a painkiller for their own pain, and why there's the best to use every 4 hours, 8 hours, and like increment them there. So essentially what you're trying to do is just get to a steady state where
You feel like that the entire time?
yeah, and that painkiller is in your system at a constant level.
Oh, okay.
So that's what that steady state is.
Okay.
So they're the things that I probably remember most from it. And then when you, I guess if you're using methadone or going through that methadone treatment, like that you need to have every day, and continuously using that will keep you at that kind of state of not wanting to have your drug of choice around. So very interesting. I haven't formally used it, but I think that it kind of sits behind it sits behind a little bit of thinking when I work with, or when we work with people that have drug addictions.
It gives you good context of what's going on, and
Yeah.
All right, so we're talking uni pathway.
Yeah.
Pros and cons.
Of uni?
No, sorry. Of the pros and cons of being a mental health team leader.
Yeah, sorry.
You're all right.
So, pros, you...
I mean, we can talk about pros and cons of uni. Maybe we'll do that in another episode.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't mind picking your brain about that as well, actually.
Yeah, there's plenty of both.
There
but
is.
Yeah, pros of being in the mental health industry and then being in leadership. So mental health industry, one, it's, I guess, becoming so prominent. Well, it has been so prominent for a long period of time, but I guess that it's starting to get the recognition and destigmatization to it. There's still a lot of there's still so much of it in our society, but it's getting a little bit better. Pros, you get to work with a lot of great people. You get to be able to kind of rock up and be yourself a lot of the time, and you get to have fun, and you get to help people in their recovery journey one way or another. And the greatest thing I find is that and being a leader and doing the work myself is you get to bring these different assets of you in your life and what you know, and that might just click with someone different that you meet every, like you're a new participant that you work with.
Yeah.
So there's all these little different things that come up.
Very fair.
Which is very nice.
Very, very fair.
Cons, it is very challenging and it can be really unrewarding sometimes.
I can imagine hard days. You know, you would see some very difficult situations or some very bad circumstances.
Yeah.
And, you know, every service, every organisation, every business has a limit.
Yeah.
You can only do so much.
That's it.
I can imagine we might unpack that further in a little bit, but I can imagine if you got someone who isn't willing to change or is their own block, their own roadblock, very hard to overcome that.
It is, yeah. And that's the most challenging one, I reckon, as a leader as well, is supporting your staff to be able to either, like when they find that limit with that person, of what do we do now? How do we continue to work with this person, or do we not? And then also, or if it's a block in the worker, how do you
Overcome
try
that
and break that block down brick by brick and get them back in a focus to be able to kind of keep stepping forward with that person.
I feel like just in the very short 6 minutes we've been recording, I could do an episode with you on mental health, on leadership, on university. I need to get you back. I can already tell. Okay, so I mean, we're talking some pretty serious pros and cons. Let's be honest. Traits and attributes, particularly, and I know this is tricky because your role is a bit specific. It's not just mental health. We're not talking, you know, you're not a fireman. Your role is a little bit more complex and there's multiple levels there, but particularly for, even if you want to explain your own, but what kind of attributes, if I wanted to do your role, what kind of attributes are going to best suit me?
I think the key one, or to start with, is compassion or empathy. Being able to utilize those. It is self-reflection and understanding yourself. I think is hugely important and completely underrated, and so many people, I feel, don't do that well and have a lot of learning around it. And then there's also the willingness to fail.
Okay.
Fail and learning from your failure. So, one of my, I think about one of my values as being growth or learning. And from that, it's I'm going to fail more than I'm going to get success.
I mean, you're dealing obviously with people. There's complexities. There's always going to be challenges. No people are the same. You know, we know that. I can imagine what works for one person doesn't always work for the other.
That's it.
I mean, hard industry to be in.
It is.
Yeah.
And you try and create cookies.
Yeah.
And cookie cutters to be able to find ways to maximize the things you're doing. And this worked well with this person, so can I replicate any of that again? Yeah. And sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, and sometimes it's a completely different approach. And that's the other bit about learning. Like you got to be able to be adaptable and have lots of skills, and I think a lot of knowledge of different things. I don't think you always have to, depending, you know, what qualification and the work that you're doing. So I don't work in a clinical field. Work in a more psychosocial space, so some of our skill development doesn't have to be as defined and probably intense. Well, it's not as intense learning as someone who's a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
Am I right that it's a bit more broad? I find psychologists, you know, are very specific on certain things.
Yeah.
Whereas I think psychosocial, it could be an array of different, or even a combination of things that are affecting or causing, you know, say a mental health concern. Could be you know, nutritional imbalance. It could be they're going through severe difficulty during their life. It could be some form of alcohol or drug abuse or something along those lines. It could be financial stress. It could be a relationship breakdown. It could be stress, work pressures. Like, it is complex, to say the least.
Yeah. And it is, yes. So we will work with all of that. But I guess the thing that how we work with that is we're coming alongside the person, or we're helping them, scrape the leaves up in the front yard with a leaf rake. Like, we're supporting that person to be able to get that leaf rake and figure out how to and do that themselves. And so then they can learn to do that, be able to pick up the leaves and put them in the bin, and they can do that over time and not need that support. So that's a really, very simplistic view, but when we think about it, like what psychosocial is about, your mental health and your social, like what your connections to society. So we also want to be helping people to work on your mental health, routines, a healthy lifestyle, whatever that may be for that person. And then helping connect with relationships, family, friends, new relationships, new community groups, things of interest. Because they're generally speaking, the things that will help you to recover over time and for long periods of time, and then also keep you healthy as
Very
well.
fair. Okay. We've gone a little sidestep because we're talking about traits and attributes. So we talked about empathy, compassion.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yes,
and I'm
sure learning.
Learning, sorry.
They're probably the three things I can think of right now.
That's fair. Not to put you in the pump. Growth and opportunities. What's the next step for a mental health team leader?
Depends what I guess the directions you want to go, but you can, I think for me specifically, it would be them becoming a manager across multiple programs. So stepping away from leading the team, delivering the supports to the people on the ground. It would then be for me then stepping into help managing the program more so, and business development for the organisation, and then you can move into general management or operations and CEO. I guess it would just depend on your own
interest and pathway you want to take.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you might have to do MBA or something like that for
Very
that.
fair.
But yeah, also to, I guess, other pathways, you might step sideways and become like go back to uni or go and get more further study to be able to step sideways to go into more clinical spaces, or become less clinical. Might move into social work, with a little bit different. And I think the beauty of working in mental health or community service as a whole, there's a lot of side steps you can do.
Yeah, definitely a lot of opportunity.
And
overlap.
You think about skills that are transferable, they transfer across a lot of community services. So I think there's a lot of different pathways you can go, and you can get quite niche into what you want to do.
It definitely sounds like a good, definitely growth opportunities. That's our first five out of the way. So everything else, nice and chill, no pressure. Can I ask you, I've found, particularly for leadership roles, the higher you go, the more removed you are. And I'm probably stereotyping a little bit, or I'm probably wrong in some situations. But, the more you get away from leadership, ground services, the more, not that you become out of touch, but it's just you then have to rely on other individuals. Do you find that's the same thing, or do you find that yourself?
Yes, I would say that I do. As you said, it's not that you don't know what's happening, but you are relying on feedback and whatever that feedback is. So whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, that's what you're going to get. So that, I think that's the challenge, and that's where the challenge is for that management and everyone at the bottom to be able to meet somewhere in the middle. Like, you need to push down and you need to push up. And without like a really consistent approach of that can go, that, it gets outweighted, I guess, from different perspective. And I think that's where you get frustrations from either your leadership or your people that are on the ground, because there's not an even push and pull, or at least doesn't feel like there is.
You do hear a lot of the, top-down services, bottom-up services, but there's never, I guess middle services. I don't know how to stick with that analogy, but it is a tricky one. And no two businesses are the same. No two services are the same. So it's probably me being unfair or an unfair biased. Before you mentioned about, obviously a key part of leadership is supporting your team.
Yeah.
I find leadership to be obviously really interesting because we mentioned before, no two people are the same. You're going to have to not deal, because that sounds really negative, but you're going to have to, and again, not manage, but you're going to have to support your team and team members in very different ways depending on their needs. For yourself as a leader, how do you is it instinctual? Do you just know, okay, yeah, I know I need to be a little bit more gentle with this person. I know I need to be a little bit more directive. I know I need to support them initially and then let them go, or set them a task and leave them be. Like, how do you know? Out of curiosity. And I know, a hard question, obviously.
It is. And I think about when I started this role and what I did. I don't like, this is just the way I went about it, and I would probably go about it differently going forward, maybe. But I went to the team. I said, here's some stuff about me. This is how you may find me. Here, this is how you may not find me, and tried to kind of like break down a little bit of, I guess, a barrier that people get to know me and know me of who I am inside and outside of work a little bit.
Okay.
And then from there, I attempted to essentially get a few of the same questions and interview all my staff that I would be leading.
Yeah.
And try and start breaking down and understanding how they felt within the business, how they feel within their role, how they understand the program that we work in.
Okay.
And I can't remember a couple of other things. But then I start to get a bit of a sense of how does this person see the business? How do they see themselves in the role? And then do I need to be quite supportive of them? Do I have to try and build them up to understand the business more? Do I have to help build relationships? That's the other thing of how do they interact within their own team?
Yeah.
So what is that? How do they view their team?
Yeah,
and their relationships there? So through that, then I guess it is a little bit instinctual. I think everyone has. For me, I feel like I've always been reasonable navigating relationships with people and navigating teams. So that felt like it led me in good stead. Right now, I don't know if I'm like as good as I probably think I was at that point.
I always have that opinion of there's always room for improvement in any way, shape or form. You could always be a better leader in a certain avenue, or you can, dogs in the background. You can always do better, or, you can review a situation and handle a particular, issue a little better or whatnot, or communicate things more clearly. And I mean, that's my opinion. There's always room to improve. But do you review how you've done things to then further inform how you would in the future?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm pretty critical on myself, so I'm consistently reviewing how I do things, like in my own head, or I do that with my manager, and we'll have debriefing conversations about how I might have managed something.
And I should have said as well, obviously being a leader, you're there to support a team, but you also need support. So it's great to hear you've got a supportive manager. Yep,
I do.
Awesome. Very good.
I've had very good managers nice. in my time in my leadership role. So
I mean, that's wonderful to hear, because there's not always good managers. Or I find management and leadership attracts two kind of people. Yeah. And I am absolutely stereotyping here, so feel free to correct me, go against, no worries at all. But I find it attracts either the egotistical, I like being in charge, I like having a say, being part of the direction, or it's I like to help, I want to be involved, I want to see people grow. It's usually one of two. And again, I'm sure it's much more complex than that, but that's just my avenue. I used to have an old team leader, and he once told me a good team leader works themselves out of a job. Yeah. That you're there to build people up. Yeah. That then no longer need you because their skill, knowledge, ability has grown, and you've supported and nurtured that, and you are realistically working yourself out of a job. Would you agree?
I do agree. Okay. And I had that mentality when I first came in as a leader nearly 5 years ago. But I also didn't know to be fair, I didn't know what that meant.
Mm.
It sounded great, and I'm like, I'm going to do myself out of a job. But the reality of that is actually incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And then you kind of just get lost in the work.
Yeah.
And for me, I can really get lost in reactive stuff and reactive work, and being proactive is a lot more difficult for me to maintain. And I've recently gone through a couple things in my work and personal life where I guess some of my interests around leadership are adjusting, and a lot of it is about growth of people and well-being at work. But then there's a certain thing happened in my life recently where all of a sudden I'm like, I had this epiphany drop where I'm just like, I'm not actually doing what I feel like I should be doing in this role, and I'm not making our systems better, and I'm not actually doing myself out of a job. I'm just keeping myself here, and I just accidentally got myself into this spot, or it's a spot that I never realized how to get out of. So then all of a sudden, like with a little bit of that clarity, then I was like, okay, well, by the end of 2025, I'm going to have these things done, and about building a better system, better structure, better reporting. So then it takes less of this, of my brain, it takes less of me to have to do it. Because when I walk away from the role at some point in the future, that next person can just log straight in and go, here's the report, here's the information, because that's the important stuff further on. Like they're the things I think then leave a little bit of a legacy. But it also makes it easier for the next person, and it gets you and it works you out of a role, and it also upskills you.
The situation is better than it's better than how you came into it. You're leaving it better than it was.
That as well. Yeah.
Your self-awareness is pretty impressive, given that you've realised, maybe not complacency, but you've realised something along those lines and set yourself a target. Pretty good awareness. I reckon that's a pretty key attribute for a leader, because I think a lot of people go, I'm here, I'm sinking my teeth in, I'm not going anywhere, this is it, I'm happy, good paycheck, no worries at all. Clearly not you.
No.
I mean, so I would argue, out of the two examples I gave of there's two types of leaders, I would argue you're definitely the more positive side. To say, you're wanting to develop and grow your team, but then also, bit of a legacy. I love that word. Definitely a positive.
I don't know if I love the word legacy, to be fair, because it sounds very egotistical. But I understand, like, it plays a purpose because there is legacy that's left behind. Sometimes, whether it's good or bad, like, there's always something that's left behind when you're gone. But I think about, for me, and like the growth of my staff is, like, what are we doing to help you get to the next spot? Or get to something else that might be interesting for you.
Okay.
So if most people nowadays are not staying in a job for 20 years, they're staying in a job for 5.
Very true.
So, or less. So what can I do in my leadership role to support you to learn those skills, or learn something as soon as you can to be able to get to the next step? Whether it's a side step or it's a forward step into leadership or it's something else, how can I be a part of supporting that?
What not to sidestep, because I think that's incredibly admirable. What appealed you to mental health, and also not just mental health, because you're already in a difficult sector. Many would label it as a difficult sector. Obviously rewarding, but difficult. What draw you to mental health, and then particularly to then want to be in leadership in mental health?
So the thing that drew me to mental health, originally I went into psychology because I wanted to go into sports psychology and work with athletes. And then as I got into uni, I was like, actually, athletes have got a lot of support around them. They don't need this. And I started to hear a bit more stories. I think I was quite a sheltered kid. And then I actually started to understand a bit more about the world And I'm like, there's actually a lot of people that
See
need
what I mean?
help.
That self-awareness. That awareness is there. Even as a kid, by the sounds of it.
Young,
Or
early
a
20s.
young adult.
Yeah. So I started to kind of pick up on that and then be able to go, okay, like I would like to work in a space where I'm helping people to be able to try and achieve and do something for themselves and create a slightly, I don't know, create a better life for themselves. So that's where I guess my interest gone, and I've done different, I guess, community service roles, and it just then lead me into mental health, which is probably my favourite spot to be, rather than working, because you get to, you work in disability, you work with aged care, you work with adults. Adults, youth. You work with everyone.
Whole catchment.
Yeah. So there's
good variety.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the exciting
variety is the key to life. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Your beer's empty, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna attempt to multitask here. I'm gonna crack you a lovely can of Guinness. I tell you what though, that's a good company to be sponsored by, Guinness. I'd definitely love that. Sorry, I clearly cannot multitask. Oh, sorry guys, you're gonna have to bear with us because I'm too lazy to pause. Can I ask you then, particularly for mental health? I mean, obviously we could talk about the stereotype. We could talk about how the industry has definitely become much more transparent, and there's a lot more advertisement around mental health services and what's good and what's bad. Do you find, I think like we're gone are the days of people saying, "Oh, that person's crazy" and stuff like that. But have you noticed a societal change in mental health? Like, are you getting 50 applicants every time you're doing a recruitment? Like, is there an interest, a buzz?
Yes. So there definitely is. I think COVID actually was a big one for that. And
Okay.
I saw, that's also a bit of a challenge because I wasn't in leadership before COVID, but I was afterwards. But I think that what you saw from a lot of social media and a lot of the movement around the world was people were like, all of a sudden were like, I want to do something I enjoy.
Yeah.
And
Life's too short.
Yeah. I want to find something that brings me purpose and brings me joy. So I think after that, I actually then found a leadership role in 2021. So the first leadership role, we would have 100 plus applicants. Wow. And that was entry level into a mental health organisation where you're triaging phone calls and emails and all that sort of stuff. So there was the start of that, and now still I'm getting probably 30-40 applicants in regional towns.
I mean, that's good to hear. That's really good to hear.
Yeah, and I think would be about that much. And people come for different reasons, and I think that the lived experience is a really interesting part where that's playing in lived experience and peer work playing in mental health at the moment, which is people using their life story and the things that they've done, their recovery journeys, or their living mental health, of being able to utilise that in some version of service. So I think we're also finding there's a lot of people that want to do that more so than ever, because it's not as scary to say, hey, I've lived through this, or and then also organisations are opening up
much more open. I definitely agree. Definitely seen that industry
accepting that
industry change. Can I ask you then, scenario wise, if I'm in mental health or if I'm in a associated sort of organisation that's offering those services, and I'm considering going into leadership, a lot of people will say, and I've heard this many times, it's not worth the extra stress. It's not worth the extra, the money's not worth it. And money's not the only factor. It should never be the only factor. But it is an important factor. You know, we all have mortgages, we all have dependents and all that kind of stuff. Can I ask you, is it worth the stress? Is it worth the extra effort and the extra stress? Because undoubtedly there'd have to be extra stress.
Yeah.
More responsibility.
There is, because in the end, like for me, I'm more or less responsible for 2 programs to be hitting KPIs and being delivered well.
Yeah. Okay.
So then we can continue to apply for tenders and win tenders. But that's not just on me, that's the whole organisation. Like, so you can get really caught up into thinking this is all about me, but in the end, there's an organisation that is doing that. They're the ones applying, so they're also got to support you to be able to deliver your role.
Okay.
That's what I believe. But I think it is worth the additional. Like for me, I do generally enjoy leading, and I always have. Like I've come from sporting group backgrounds as well, and sort of been a part of leadership naturally through social avenues and sporting avenues. Yeah. Okay. So I've always enjoyed doing that. So it becomes some aspects of it come quite natural, and I like that. And I also there's a point where I just like people coming to me as well. I like being that.
Can I ask you, not just people coming towards you, are you a natural problem solver? Because you would argue most people aren't going to come to you. I mean, again, I'm probably not stereotyping, but I'm doing a typical scenario here of they're not going to come to you with often positive outcomes or solutions. Normally, they come to you with problems.
Yeah.
Are you a problem solver?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I am, and that can be quite difficult for some people. Or I'm looking for, okay, how can we solve this?
Yeah, okay.
And the balance in personal life and work life is it's not always about solving it.
Yeah.
And this is where that personal growth and helping other people grow is so important. About I need to pull myself back from wanting to jump into that and coach them through it. Ask those questions that, like Socratic questioning, as my old manager would always talk about. Yeah. Comes from Socrates. But asking open-ended questions essentially of what do you think here? Like, what have you like, what's happened here? What have you tried? What's been the response there? What do you think that response would be if you do this? Like, start to kind of open up the question and getting people to think about what they are stepping into or not doing, and help them try it. And then another quote that it comes from him, from something, and he'd always say, if you do nothing, you leave nothing unsolved. Or no, do nothing and leave nothing undone. And it's a little head spinner, because sometimes you just got to do nothing. And nothing will come of it.
I mean, it's terrifying to a certain point, but I definitely agree with it.
Yeah.
I gotta admit, I love the it's I think it's like an old Thomas Edison quote, and he was like, he failed to create a light bulb, 1,000 times, but on that 1,001, he got it. And his response is, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I learned 1,000 times how not to make a light bulb.
Yeah.
Just that positive mentality. I really respect that, because I go, geez, I wish I had that mindset. But okay. Yeah. It sounds like you definitely need to be approachable, but not just, I've got the answer, no problem at all. How do you stop yourself from micromanagement? Because I find, there would be some that you would probably have to support a little bit more, or you might go a little bit haywire, or you got to keep a closer eye on. How do you appropriately manage and assess that, or lead that?
It's an interesting question.
I'm asking you all the hard leadership questions. Sorry.
No, it's good. I just don't think I can naturally be a micromanager.
Have you ever had a bad manager? Because I find those people that have had a bad manager know exactly not what to do.
Yeah, and I have had bad managers, but I did have one micromanager, and that was a very short experience, but awful. Like, in a situation where we sat at a board meeting table where there was 10 of us in a room, and she said in the same sentence about this. Yeah. And then the response back to her was a response about, okay, well, this is what it is. And then she turns around and goes, no, that's not correct. And you're like, what do you mean? You've just said to this person that you know nothing, but now you're telling them that that's wrong.
Yeah.
So that's stuck with me. But then you
And it
also
doesn't
got
inspire leadership.
no,
really.
it doesn't. No, it doesn't inspire you wanting to go to them. And that person was a bit manipulative with a couple of things as well. But I think I just don't have it in me to be able to be a micromanager, because I just don't have the brain power to know just to go over everyone's work all the time. Like that must be incredibly exhausting.
It feels I've definitely been micromanaged, and I haven't felt it's been justified, and it's almost like a feeling of distrust. I feel like they don't trust me, my work ethic, everything that really identifies me as a human being. To go, I put a lot of value in my career and my job, and this is my daily activities. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a podcast like this. But it hurts, not just the ego, but you kind of go, well, I'm doing a good job. I think I'm doing a good job.
Yeah.
Do you not think I'm doing a good job? And I know that's really hard to sort of, I guess, justify. Can I ask you then, you've got a brand new staff member, new to the industry, whatever it might be, how are you supporting them as their team leader in the first 3 to 6 months, the first 6 weeks?
So for me, I've gone over this a little bit. I try and set up the first couple of weeks of here's the information you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the information I want you to learn about the program, and then setting up like your sessions and delivering a program. And then here's the training around that, like some online training and stuff you need to do. So create the space to go, here's your shitty online training you need to do, that your company needs you to do.
I mean,
and you're going to click
have to
through
do
and just go,
every
fuck,
organisation, you have to do, and some of them are really important, respectful workplace behaviour and stuff like that. But every job, I always tell people, like, the CEO has to do it. The earliest person who's been there one day has to do it. Everyone has to do it. No one wants to do it, or very few people want to do it, but we all have to. It sucks, but it is what it is.
That's it. So let's get that out of the way as quick as possible, and let's you give you the space to do it. So do that, and then from there it's a bit of a gradual step into it. So I want them to then start shadowing people, of going, okay, this is how we might do an intake, or this is our intake forms. Practice it. I might just, depending if the person's been in the industry or not, I might sit with them and go, okay, let's role play now.
Yeah, practical
you just do
learning.
it.
Sounds good.
You do it. I'll be someone that you're gonna maybe meet, and we'll just go through it, and then just see where you're at. It doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong. And then just kind of like build from there. So then like shadowing other staff members, and then having myself shadow, or other staff members shadowing them, and then gradually build up a caseload. So I work on the basis of about 6 participants per contracted day over a fortnight. So then we would basically build up to that.
Okay, so it sounds like good practical ways of getting someone on board, and pretty well, get all the nitty gritty e-learnings and such, over and done with. We've ticked that box. No worries at all. Sounds like you're being pretty flexible on how they're going to learn, scenarios, practicals, giving them the support depending on their background, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, sounds pretty good. Yeah. If I've been working with you for 5 years, you've been my team leader for 5 years, I'm doing a good job, I'm kicking goals, I'm 10 out of 10, the sun shines out of my ass, I want to come to you and I want a pay rise. Yeah. How best should I approach you and go, hey, I want an extra, maybe not 10K, but how, in your opinion, what can they do to help their case? Because you might ultimately not make the decision. It might be the CEO, it might be the board of directors. I have no idea. And it depends, obviously, on every organisation. But from your perspective, what can I do? What can that person do to best their case for that pay increase?
It's an interesting one. It's a little bit challenging to answer that, because it depends on the role that you're in, and
Fair.
if it's classified as a specific role,
Yeah.
there might be an upper echelon. So you may have to then find a different role to actually get that pay increase. But I think that generally speaking, if you want to get pay increases, for me, if I'm thinking about it, I need to be showing the things that I can do now and that I am doing now that sit at that next level within our award.
Yeah.
I think that, like, given my company, we sit against the award, so I need to be able to show that
They're doing the next tier of requirements.
Yeah.
If I want to get to the next tier, because I think that's a really good example that a lot of organisations have industry-related awards and such, or whatever they are. If I want to get to that next tier, do I come to you and go, hey, I want more responsibility? Like, what kind of, do I need to be like first in the door, last at the end of the day, get you a cup of coffee, yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir?
Yeah.
Because, you know, some people, unfortunately, there are some bad organisations out there. I'm not saying that your one is, but, you know, that they'll bleed people dry. They'll get them to do as much as they possibly can with no option of going up, just as an example. But can they come, like, should they come to you and go, hey, this is what I want to do? Like, because it can be intimidating. As soon as I've definitely been intimidated by team leaders, managers, general managers, ops managers, CEOs, whatever it is. It can be intimidating to approach a team leader and go, hey, I'm feeling undervalued, or I want more responsibility, or I want to try and progress. Like, how do they broach that topic? Do they wait for their performance review or whatnot, or do they, like, how do they?
Well, I think you just take it whenever you're feeling comfortable. And I think the other aspect, like, as you've said, it can be intimidating, go to a manager or go to somebody above you. But I think sometimes it's just as intimidating for that person, for somebody to come to them and be quite assertive and go, hey, I've been doing this, this and this, and I believe that I want a pay rise, or I want to do this. And that can be intimidating, I think, as a leader as well, because then all of a sudden, like, does this person want to come for my job? And that's when I think that you start to set aside leaders of, do they have my best interest or their best interest, or do they have organisational interest? Like, how are we working on that? If I would like to think that if someone comes to me around this, that I would, and it has actually sort of come recently, I took it a bit more to them. But what's the thing that you want to do? What can I do? Is there something that I could do in my role to be able to give you the skills, or give you opportunity to develop those skills to go and do that thing, wherever that may be? So then I might have to get crafty around work that person does.
Yeah, okay.
To then not impact our delivery of the program.
Because you've still got KPIs, you've still got quotas, whatever it might be.
That's
budgets to adhere to.
Yeah. So, and also I don't, like, for me, I don't want to go, well, by doing this, you have to work an extra hour a day. Like, that's bullshit. Like, that's not fun for anyone.
Yeah, it doesn't seem fair.
Nah. So it's what can we do, and how can we squeeze that into the work you're doing, or is there something that I can relieve out of my role and teach you to do as well? So then you're kind of like stepping up and doing a little bit. Obviously, I'm not giving you my whole role, because that's not appropriate, but is there something that starts to kind of, that you can take to your resume or take to your next interview to say, hey, I did this, this and this in my role?
There's always opportunities. I think you can always backfill a position temporarily. You can, support a team with an additional policy, or, you can try and put your hand up for a reconciliation plan group or something like that. Or, you might go, oh, our organisation, our cultural policy is being reviewed next year. Can I put my hand up to be on the committee or something like that? Like, there are things that you can do.
That's it.
That you can fit within the avenue of your general work hours. So it is possible.
It is. Yeah.
Right. Yep. Fair enough. Mental health team leader. Interesting. Very, very interesting. We are at time. That went very, very quickly. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate all your insight. Sounds like a very interesting, not just industry, but position and career. But thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
No worries.